Welcome! Adega, Outlaw! Light the fires for Stone Cold Loki! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 7 Kinds of Mischief! Good evening!
I'm scared now.
Oh, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 7 Kinds of Mischief. I'm your host, Stone Loki, and with me today, of course, is the Mad Doctor, Adega Outlaw.
Hello.
And we're going to be, if you guys didn't know, I left the description kind of blank, but if you guys didn't know, tonight we're going to be talking about vampires.
Little bit.
Just a little bit. Just a bit.
It's good to see everybody. I like
it is.
Lady Miss little just comes in with a smile with the little emoji, and then off it goes down into more of a frightening one.
Absolutely. She says human is the 5th white meat. God.
And she's supposed to be a nurse.
Mm-hmm. Pat says vampires aren't real.
Yeah. Well, I've got quite a few bit of stories I could use, but I'm just picking one.
Project Storytime throws out a Warrior of Midgard member chat and says, I never drink wine.
I love it.
Pat S. Long pork. Long pork. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
DJ Ronnie G, good evening, says, my brother once did interview with a vampire on public access TV. Sometimes I sleep in the trunk of my dad's car.
How you doing? You've been fired up lately. I've been enjoying your shows in the morning.
Thank you. I've been enjoying doing them.
It's always I like that new emoji of Loki on fire. I don't want to abuse it, but gosh, man. Uh-oh. Did we lose Loki? Before we came on earlier, he was cutting in and out, so maybe I did lose him. So,
and I got kicked out of my own stream. Good Lord, yes, the Loki emoji, the Loki on fire emoji. Been fun.
Nah, can't argue with that. Let me get started because I got a little bit of reading to do. Just some of you know this because I've been asked it before when I've been interviewed. One of the very first things that I read, first book I ever checked out was a school library. I think I was in 2nd grade. Was a vampire book. It wasn't about stories. It was about, not fake stories. It was about real life people's assumptions about vampires, where you could put grains of rice in front of your windows and doors, and the vampire will stop and have to count each and every single one, and it prevents them from passing in because it takes them so long to read that to count that they won't be able to pass into your house before the sun rises, or the garlic. And something I learned is something that's going to come up. I'm pretty sure it's in this story, but it's something new that I hadn't heard. A certain type of wood, white birch, or I can't remember. But it is something new that I learned about vampires when I was going through this. Some of you who've been with us the whole time will know the very first thing when we switched from doing history and we changed into doing something scary for Halloween was the first story I brought up with was a vampire. They consider her a vampire. I think she was mostly just a mass murderer with a very sick mind. Was Elizabeth Bethe from Hungary, who had murdered a lot of girls, and they ended up walling her up in a high tower, and she eventually died there. No one knows the exact cause, except the last thing she said to her guard was, "My hands are cold." So who knows? But Loki's being quiet, not bothering me, just rambling on. So what I wanted to share with you, this is some people consider it true. Some people think it may be mythological, but we're going to our friends over in Britain for probably, at least over in that part of the world, the second most famous vampire. And we're not including Vlad because he's just a butcher. This one is the Phantom of the Croglan Krang. The Phantom of the Croglan Krang is one of the best known vampire stories in Britain. It is as famous as the Annal Vampire lore as Whitley and as Dracula. The actual story bears the marks of fiction, some say, and first appeared in a book called I Am Solitary Life by Augustus Hare. What follows is an adaptation and basically a Cliff Notes version of the story. Legend tells that the Croglan Crag was in the hands of the Fisher family, that's their name, Fisher family, for many centuries. In the early 19th century, the Fishers moved from their property into larger dwellings and put the property up to let or for sale for people who don't live in England. All during the cold, long winter, the house was empty. Who knows what ancient stirrings were aroused in that period of dereliction? As the winter passed into spring, the Krang was finally let to two brothers and a sister called the Cranswells. It seems that they enjoyed life to the full and soon settled into the village routine and socialized with the local people. They were well liked with the village and loved their new home very much. Sorry, I'm clicking ads. One summer evening, as the shadows drew long around the crag, and the churchyard hollow took on its blackness at night, Miss Cronwell took her leave to her bedroom chamber. She paused to look out the window in the direction of the darkened churchyard at the bottom of their long lawn, and noticed something peculiar in the vicinity of the churchyard. It seemed that above the darkness and blackness of the gravestones, she could see 2 points of light moving. In time, they moved from the graveyard over the shadows, over the wall, moving closer on to the bottom of the lawn, where they played around the churchyard wall. By this time, Miss Cragwell's curiosity had given way to deep feeling of unease. She shut the window tight, bolted the door, laid down in her bed, and tried to get some sleep. After a short while, she checked herself for her foolish superstitions and slowly drifted into slumber. On the verge of sleep, she was suddenly jolted awake by a low rustling from outside the window. She twisted in bed and sat bolt straight up. Outside the window, burning like coals in the night, were 2 points of light, which she now recognized as the demon eyes of some humanoid creature who was grasping at the window pane. She tried to scream, but terror froze the sound of her throat. The sound of rustling gave way to picking, and she realized that the creatures Brutish hands were unpicking the lead from the triangular panes. First one, then another, and the small glass panel gave way and fell to the floor. A gray, cadaver-like hand reached in and pulled the latch. The window swung inward in one slow motion, and the figure climbed through the gap with cat-like ease. Miss Cronswell could now hardly breathe, let alone scream, for before her stood a towering figure of a man, pale, almost translucent, and bright burning eyes and red blue lips. He stepped to the bed and in one moment grasped her hair with gnarled hands and pulled it back as if he was going to give her a kiss. The brothers, sleeping in separate rooms, were aroused by a loud, high-pitched scream that seemed to shake the very walls of the Grange. In a moment, they were both at their sister's door. The door was locked, so they smashed through with a poker, eventually breaking through into a devastating scene. There was a stench of moldy decay in the air, and upon the bed lay their sister, blood pumping from her artery gash in her neck. One of the brothers rushed to the open window and cast sight of a shadow lifting across the bottom of the lawn near the churchyard. They managed to stop the blood flow and revive Miss Cronswell. The next few hours were spent in the attempt to save her life. Miss Cronswell survived the attack, and when she was strong enough to travel, they took her to Switzerland to recuperate in the fresh mountain air. When the full story was in the open, the brothers swore vengeance upon the creature, at whose nature they could only guess. When Miss Cronswell had recovered fully and heard of her brother's plans to hunt out the assailant, she persuaded her brothers to let her act as bait and would not be dissuaded by her brother's concerns. So it came to be that the Cronswells returned to the Crag one dark winter's day. Miss Cronswell took her place in the room overlooking the churchyard, and as the moon rose, a pair of bright lights shone in the shadows of the churchyard. Once more, the figure of a man appeared at the window and picked the leaded glass to gain entry to the bedchamber. This time the two brothers were laying in wait in the shadows. As the figure came to step into the room, they both loosed shots at the creature. There was a low howl, and the creature sped off in the direction from whence it came. Not wishing to follow such a night creature into its domain, the brothers waited for the daybreak. First thing in the morning, they took Miss Cronswell to safety and gathered all the residents of the Grange around them to carry out their gruesome task. The men searched through the graveyard for any signs of disturbance. On finding none, turned their attention to the church. All was quiet, but they noticed that the crypt door was slightly ajar. Pushing into the crypt, they were met with horrific scenes. All around the crypt were scattered remains of broken coffins and gnawed bones. One coffin stood alone in the corner and seemed to have been left untouched by the chaos. The villagers wrenched off the coffin lid. Inside, wrapped in moldy clothes, was what they assumed to be a vampire. Its eyes were cold and lifeless in the daylight. But the fresh pistol wound was gaping from one of the creature's legs. The villagers dragged the coffin and its demonic contents into the church courtyard and burned the lot to ashes. Nobody seemed to know where this strange creature came from or why it had remained dormant for centuries of peace when the Fishers lived on the property. One can only surmise that during the period of dereliction, an old horror was reawakened and would not return to rest after the house was reoccupied. Recent research by Lionel Fanthorpe suggests that the story is much older than reported. A chapel and vault closer to the house were demolished in in the Cromwell's day, and a second story was added to the house after this date. So the description from the story matches much better in the 17th century. So this one, most people assume is true. It's a vampire story, so you could take it or leave it. But there is physical evidence of something having happened. And hopefully it wasn't too frightening for you, but I have several more, and over the next few months up to Halloween, we'll probably grab some of the more fantastic ones, but have claims to be truthful. All right.
That was absolutely awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Adega.
You bet.
So since Adega wanted to talk vampires, I wanted to share something with you guys. I used to love a game back in the day called Vampire the Masquerade. World of Darkness is what it was called.
Was that any good?
Yes.
Well, if you played it a lot, it must have been good.
Oh, yeah. It was really, really good. And there's even a series. They even had a series. It only lasted one season, but the series was pretty good at the time as well. But this is going way back into the original lore of how vampires were created in Vampire the Masquerade. This is from the Book of Nod. We're going to be reading a couple of sections here. So let's go. This is from the Chronicle of Cain. I dream of the first times, the longest memory. I speak of the first times, the oldest father. I sing of the first times, and the dawn of darkness. In Nod, where the light of paradise lit up the night sky, and the tears of our parents wet the ground. Each of us, in our way, set about to live and take our sustenance from the land. And I, firstborn Cain, I with sharp things, planted the dark seeds, wet them in earth, tended them, and watched them grow. And Abel, second-born Abel, tended the animals, aided their bloody births, fed them, and watched them grow. I loved him, my brother. He was the brightest, the sweetest, the strongest. He was the first part of all of my joy. Then one day our father said to us, Cain, Abel to him above, you must make a sacrifice, a gift of the first part of all that you have. And I, firstborn, Cain, I gathered the tender shoots, the brightest fruits, and the sweetest grass. And Abel, secondborn, Abel slaughtered the youngest, the strongest, the sweetest of his animals. On the altar of our father we laid our sacrifices and lit fire under them and watched the smoke carry them up to the one above. The sacrifice of Abel, secondborn, smelled sweet to the one above, and Abel was blessed. And I, firstborn Cain, I was struck from beyond by a harsh word and a curse, for my sacrifice was unworthy. I looked at Abel's sacrifice, still smoking, the flesh, the blood. I cried, I held my eyes, I prayed in night and day, and when Father said, the time for sacrifice has come, Abel led his youngest, his sweetest, his most beloved to the sacrificial fire. I did not bring my youngest, my sweetest, for I knew the one above would not want them. And my brother, beloved Abel, said to me, Cain, you did not bring a sacrifice, a gift of the first part of your joy, to burn on the altar of the one above. I cried tears of love as I, with sharp things, sacrificed that which was the first part of my joy, my brother. And the blood of Abel covered the altar and smelled sweet as it burned. But my father said, Cursed you are, Cain, who killed your brother. As I was cast out, so shall you be. And he exiled me to wander in darkness the land of Nod. I flew into darkness. I saw no source of light, and I was afraid and alone. This is part 2, The Coming of Lilith. I was alone in the darkness, and I grew hungry. I was alone in the darkness, and I grew cold. I was alone in the darkness, and I cried. Then there came to me a sweet voice, a honey voice, words of succor, words of success, a woman, dark and lovely, with eyes that pierced the darkness. She came to me. I know your story, Cain of Nod, she said, smiling. You are hungry. Come, I have food. You are cold. Come, I have clothes. You are sad. Come, I have comfort. Who would comfort one so cursed as I? Who would clothe me? Who would feed me? I am your father's first wife who disagreed with the one above and gained freedom in darkness. I am Lilith. Once I was cold and there was no warmth for me. Once I was hungry and there was no food for me. Once I was sad and there was no comfort for me. She took me in, she fed me, she clothed me. In her arms I found comfort. I cried until blood trickled from my eyes, and she kissed them away. And I dwelt for a time in the house of Lilith, and asked her, out of darkness, how did you build this place? How did you make clothes? How did you grow food? And Lilith smiled and said, unlike you, I am awake. I see the threads that spill all around you. I make that which I need out of power. Awaken me then, Lilith, I said. I have need for this power. Then I can make my own clothes, make my own food, make my own house. Worry creased Lilith's brow. I do not know what the awakening will do for you are truly cursed by your father. You could die. You could be forever changed. Cain said, even so, a life without power will not be worth living. I would die without your gifts. I will not live as your thrall. Lilith loved me, and I knew this. Lilith would do what I asked, though she did not wish it. And so Lilith, bright-eyed Lilith, awakened me. She cut herself with a knife, bled for me into a bowl, and I drank deep. It was sweet. And then I fell into the abyss. I fell forever, falling into the darkest darkness. This is part 3, The Temptation of Cain. And from the darkness came a bright shining light, fire in the night. And the archangel Michael revealed himself to me. I was unafraid, and I asked his business. Michael, general of heaven, wielder of the holy flame, said unto me, Son of Adam, son of Eve, thy crime is great, and yet the mercy of my Father is also great. Will you not repent the evil that you have done, and let his mercy wash you clean? And I said to Michael, Not by the one above's grace, but my own will I live in pride. Michael cursed me, saying, Then for as long as you walk this earth, you and your children will fear my living flame, and it will bite deep and savor your flesh. And on the morning, Raphael came on lambent wings, light over the horizon, the driver of the sun, ward of the east. Raphael spoke, saying, Cain, son of Adam, son of Eve, your brother Abel forgives you your sin. Will you not repent and accept the mercy of the Almighty? And I said to Raphael, Not by Abel's forgiveness, but by my own will be forgiven. Raphael cursed me, saying, Then for as long as you walk this earth, you and your children will fear the dawn, and the sun rays will seek to burn you like fire wherever you hide always. Hide now, for the sun rises to take its wrath on you. But I found a secret place in the earth and hid from the burning light of the sun. Deep in the earth I slept until the light of the world was hidden behind the mountain of night. When I awoke from my day of sleep, I heard the sound of gentle rushing wings, and I saw the black wings of Uriel draped around me. Uriel, Reaper, Angel of Death, dark Uriel, who dwells in darkness. Uriel spoke to me quietly, saying, Son of Adam, son of Eve, God Almighty has forgiven you your sin. Will you accept his mercy and let me take you to your reward, no longer cursed? And I said to dark-winged Uriel, Not by God's mercy, but by my own will I live. I am what I am, I did what I did, and that will never change. And then, through dread, Uriel, God Almighty, cursed me, saying, then for as long as you walk this earth, you and your children will cling to darkness. You will drink blood only. You will eat only ash. You will be always as you were at death, never dying, never living. You will walk forever in darkness. All you touch will crumble into nothing until the last days. I gave a cry of anguish at this terrible curse and tore at my flesh. I wept blood. I caught the tears in a cup and drank them. When I looked up from my drink of sorrow, the archangel Gabriel, gentle Gabriel, Lord of mercy, appeared to me. The archangel Gabriel said unto me, Son of Adam, son of Eve, behold, the mercy of the Father is greater than you can ever know. For even now there is a path open, a road of mercy, and you shall call this road, and tell your children of it. For by that road may they come once again to dwell in the light. And with that, the darkness was lifted like a veil, and the only light was Lilith's bright eyes. Looking around me, I knew that I had awakened. When my energies first surged through me, I discovered how to move like lightning, how to borrow the strength of the earth, how to be as stone. These were like breathing once was to me. Lilith then showed me how she hides herself from hunters, how she commands obedience, and how she demands respect. Then, awakening myself further, I found the way to alter my form, the way to have dominion over animals, the way to make my eyes see for the first time. Then Lilith commanded that I stop, saying that I have overreached my bounds, that I had gone too far, that I had threatened my very essence. She used her powers and commanded me to stop. Because of her power, I heeded her. But deep within me, a seed was planted, a seed of rebellion. And when she turned her face from me, I opened myself up once more to the night and saw the infinite possibilities in the stars and knew that a path of power, a path of blood, was mine for the taking. And so I awakened in me this final path, from which all other paths would grow. With this newest power, I broke the bonds that the Lady of Night put on me. I left the damned queen that evening, cloaking myself in shadows. I fled the land of Nod and came at last to a place where not even her demons could find me. Let me tell the tale of Zillah, first love of Cain, first wife of Cain, the sweetest blood, the softest skin, the clearest eyes. Alone of Cain's newest children did Cain desire her, and she was not mindful of her desire, turning away from him. Not gifts, not sacrifices, not perfumes, not doves, not beautiful dancers, not singers, not oxen, not sculpture, not beautiful clothing. Nothing would turn Zillah's heart from stone to sweet fruit. So Cain pulled at his beard and tore at his hair and took to roaming the wilderness at night, thinking of her, burning for her, and one night came upon an old crone singing to the moon. Cain said to the crone, Why do you sing? And the crone replied, Because I yearn for what I cannot have. Cain said to the crone, I yearn also. What can one do? The crone smiled and said, Drink of my blood this night, Cain, father of kindred, and return tomorrow night. Then will I tell you the wisdom of the moon. Cain drank and departed. The next night, Cain found the crone sleeping on a rock. Wake up, crone, Cain said. I have returned. The crone opened one eye and said, I dream of the solution for you this night. Drink once more, and then return tomorrow night. Bring a bowl of clay, bring a sharp knife. I will have your answer then. Once again, Cain took blood from the crone, who immediately fell back into a deep sleep. When Cain returned the next night, the crone looked up at him and smiled. Greetings, Lord of the Beasts, the crone said. I have the wisdom you seek. Take some of my blood in the bowl you have and mix in these berries and herbs and drink deep of the elixir. You will be irresistible. You will be potent. You will be masterful. You will be ardent. You will be glowing. The heart of Zillah will melt like the snows in spring. And so Cain drank from the crone's elixir because he was so in love with Zillah, and he so desired her love in return. And the crone laughed. The crone laughed aloud. She had tricked him. She had trapped him. Cain was angry beyond compare. Cain reached out with his powers to rend this crone apart with his strength. The crone cackled and said, "Do not." And Cain could do nothing against her. The crone chuckled and said, "Love me." And Cain could do nothing but stare into her ancient eyes and desire her leathery skin. The crone laughed and said, "Make me immortal." And Cain embraced her. She cackled again, laughed with the pure ecstasy of the embrace, for it did not pain her. "I have made you powerful, Cain of Enoch, Cain of Nod, but you will forever be bound to me. I have made you master of all, but you will never forget me. Your blood, potent as it is now, will bond those who drink it, as you did, once a night for 3 nights. You will be the master. They will be your thrall as you are mine. For though Zillah will love you as you wanted, you will love me forever. Go now and claim your lovely bride. I will wait for you in the darkest places while I brew more potions for your health." And so, heavy-hearted, Cain returned to Enoch, and each night for 3 nights, Zillah drank from her sire, though she did not know it. And on the 3rd night, Cain announced he would marry Zillah, his sweetest child, and she agreed. For a year and a day, Cain labored in service to a crone, who with blood wisdom bound him as surely as any prisoner. She would visit him at night, force him to give up his blood for her secret elixirs and potent formulas. She would take his children's children, and they would never be heard from again. But Cain was wise. He did not drink from her ever again, and she did not ask him to, thinking that he was ever her thrall. One night, Cain went to the crone in the forest and told her terrible dreams that he had had during his sleep. "I fear for my life, crone. I fear the prophecy of Oriel and my children's lust for my blood. Tell me secret knowledge, that I might be powerful against my own." And the crone went to a tree made of gopher wood and broke off a limb. She took a sharp knife and sharpened the limb. "Take this piece of living wood, sharp, strong, and pierce the heart of your wayward child. It will render them still and yours to command. Instead of feasting on your heart's blood, he will feel the weight of your justice." And Cain said, "Thank you, mother." And with that, moving in quick moments, Cain took the stake of gopher wood, seized it, and drove it deep within the crone's heart. Because Cain, wise Cain, had not fed upon her for a year and a day, and because he forced his will through his hands, he broke the bond she had held on him and turned his fortune. She laughed again as blood welled up and poured out of her mouth. Her eyes poured out hate. Cain kissed her once, kissed her cold, withered lips, and left her there to Raphael's gentle smile, the sun that rises. This is the tale of the first city, and this is where we will end it. So I'm going to read this and then we'll stop. "In the beginning, there was only Cain. Cain who sacrificed his brother out of love, Cain who was cast out, Cain who was cursed forever with immortality, Cain who was cursed with the lust for blood. It is Cain from whom all come, the sire's sire. For the passing of an age he lived, in loneliness and suffering. For an eon he remained alone. But the passing of memory drowned his sorrows, and so he returned to the world of mortals, to the world of his brother. He returned and was made welcome, for none would turn against him due to the mark that was laid upon him. The people saw his power and worshipped him. He grew powerful, and his power was strong. His ways of awe and command were great. And the children of Seth made him king of their great city, the first city. But Cain grew lonely in his power, and deep within him the seed of loneliness blossomed and grew a dark flower. He saw within his blood the potence of fertility. By calling up demons and listening to the whispers of wisdom, he learned the way to make a child for his own. He came to know its power, and doing so, decided to embrace one of those near him. And lo, Uriel, dread Uriel, revealed himself to Cain that very night and said to him, "Cain, though powerful you are, and marked of God, know you this, that any children you make will bear your curse, that any of your progeny will forever walk in the land of Nod, and fear flame and fear sun, drinking blood only and eating ash only. And since they will carry their father's jealous seed, they will forever plot and fight amongst themselves. Doom not those of Adam's grandchildren who seek to walk in righteousness, Cain. Stay your dread embrace. Still, Cain knew what he had to do, and a man named Enosh, who was the most beloved of Seth's kin, begged to be made son of the Dark Father. And Cain, mindful though he was of Uriel's words, seized Enosh and wrapped him in the dark embrace. So it came to pass that Cain begot Enoch, and so doing, named the first city Enoch. And so doing did Enoch bed for a brother, a sister, and Cain, indulgent father, gave these to him, and their names were Zillah, whose blood was most favored of Cain, and Irad, whose strength served Cain's arm. And these kindred of Cain learned the ways of making progeny of their own, and they embraced more of Seth's kin, unthinking. And then wise Cain said, An end to the crime, there shall be no more. And as Cain's words was law, his brood obeyed him. The city stood for many ages and became the center of a mighty empire. Cain grew close to those not like him. The children of Seth knew him, and he, to turn, knew them. But the world grew dark with sin. Cain's children wandered here and there, indulging their dark ways, and Cain felt anger when his children fought. He discovered deceit when he saw them make word war. He knew sadness when he saw them abuse the children of Seth. Cain read the signs in the darkening sky, but said nothing. Then came the great deluge, a great flood that washed over the world, and the city was destroyed, and the children of Seth with it. And again, Cain fell into great sorrow and went into solitude, and he left us, his progeny, to our own ends. We found him, after much searching, deep in the earth, and he bade us go, saying that the flood was a punishment for his having returned to the world of life and subverting the true law. He asked us to go so that he might sleep. So we returned alone to find the children of Noah and announced that we were the new rulers. Each created a brood in order to claim the glory of Cain. Yet we did not have his wisdom or restraint. A great war was waged, the elders against their children. Just as Uriel had said, and the children slew their parents. They rose up, used fire and wood, swords and claws to destroy those who had created them. The rebels then built a new city out of the fallen empire. They collected the 13 clans that had been scattered by the Great War and brought them all together. They brought in the kindred clan, the kingship clan, the clan of the beast, the clan of the moon, the clan of the hidden, the Vanderer clan, the clan of the rose, the night clan, the clan of the shapers, the clan of the snake, the clan of death, healer's clan, the clan of the hunt, and the learned clan. They made a beautiful city, and the people worshipped them as gods. They created new progeny of their own, the 4th generation of Cain, but they feared the jihad, the prophecy of Uriel, and it was forbidden for those children to create others of their kind. This power the elders kept for themselves. When a child was created, it was hunted down and killed, and its sire with it. Although Cain was away from us, we did feel his careful eye watching us, and we knew that he marked our movements and our ways. He cursed Malkav when that one defamed his image and doomed him to insanity forever. When Nosferatu was found indulging his taste in foul ways with his own children, Cain laid his hand on Nosferatu and told him that he would forever wear his evil and twisted with his visage. He cursed us all for killing the first part of his children, the 2nd generation, as we had hunted them down one by one, Zillah the beautiful, Irad the strong, and Enoch the first ruler. And we mourned them all, as we were all of a kind, and all of the families of Cain's children. Though the city was as great as Cain's, eventually it grew old, as do with all living things, it slowly began to die. The gods at first did not see the truth, and when they at last looked about them, it was too late. For as Uriel had said, the seed of evil planted blossomed as a blood-red rose. The children of his children's child rose up and slew his father, Brujah, and ate his flesh. Then war racked the city, and nothing could ever be as it was. The 13th saw their city destroyed and their power extinguished, and they were forced to flee, their progeny along with them. But many were killed in the flight, for they had grown weak with their authority gone. All were free to create their own broods, and soon there were many new kindred who ruled across the face of the earth. But this could not last. Over time, there came to be too many. And then there was war once again. The elders were already deep in hiding, for they had learned caution. But their children had founded their own cities and broods, and it was they who were killed in the great wave of war. There was war so total that there are none of that generation to speak of themselves any longer. Waves of mortals were sent across continents in order to crush and burn cities of the kindred. Mortals thought they were fighting their own wars, but it was for us that they spilt their blood. Once this war was over, all of the kindred hid from one another and from the humans that surrounded them. In hiding, we remain today, for the jihad continues. And none will say when Cain will rise again from his sleep in the earth and call for the city, Gehenna, the last city, the city of judgment. The jihad continues still. And that is the story from the Book of Nod about the creation of vampires. You want to talk about lore in a game, in a board game that you play? They've got some deep ass lore.
That sounds really cool.
So
I don't know how I missed that one.
And I've still got my books. I've got my rule books. I've got clan books, first editions. So I really, really like that. Even more than Dungeons and Dragons, because it was so deep and there's so many different things you could do. So many different ways you could play. It was never, well, you can't do that. There was always some way. And like Ironcaster says, using biblical scripture would be problematic today. They try and hide some of this stuff, but it's all still recorded. And it's all in that first edition book. The Big Green Book is what it's called. And I've still got my big green book with the rose on the cover. So.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother. Thank you all for hanging out, listening. Thank you, Lady Mist. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Pat, Chris Berger.
Fun.
So
what's going on for you tomorrow?
We are going to do the 9th episode of the Orville in the morning. We're going to be talking Orville in the morning. Give you guys our thoughts. I don't know who all will be on the panel tomorrow. I'm hoping it'll be everybody. I hope it'll be all 5 of us. Clobby and Dave Bob and Speaker for the Dead, Brian. So Arwen. I hope it'll be all of us. Arwen. Hope Arwen will be there. Hope we'll all be there and be able to get it done. Good stories and good story time. Thank you so much, DJ Ronnie G. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so very much, guys. You guys keep it burning bright here. You really do. Thank you. I could not do this. I could not keep doing this without you guys. So thank you so very much.
Yeah. Oh, we hope you enjoyed it. So, all right. I am going to skedaddle, folks.
Yep, we're getting out of here. Guys, take care. Be excellent to each other. Always speak friend to enter, and we will be back next week for another 7 Kinds of Mischief. Good night, everybody.
See ya.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.